Hello and welcome to another brand new episode of What the FinTech, the podcast from the team behind FinTech Futures and the Banking Technology magazine. My name is Paul Hindle, editor of FinTech Futures, and for this episode we're joined by Irina Chuchkina, Chief Growth Officer of Wallet in Telegram. Irina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul.
It's great to have you here as well. And just to get started, would you like to quickly let us know a bit more about yourself and your role then?
Of course. My name is Irina. I run user growth and international expansion at Wallet in Telegram, helping wallets scale to millions of users and who rely on digital dollars or digital technology as everyday financial tools. Wallet in Telegram, in case you missed it, is a digital asset platform that's natively integrated into Telegram. To date, we have acquired 150 million registered users. We do have a partnership with Telegram, so that's the reason why we are natively integrated into the interface. And what we offer is a dual wallet experience. On one side, we have a custodial crypto wallet for everyday use and beginners, retail audience. And then we also have a self-custodial wallet for on-chain users who want full control. So that's me. I'm based in London. I used to be based in Singapore. In fact, UK is the sixth market that I'm living in. So yeah, still learning.
Nice. Sounds great. And again, it's great to have you here. And thanks so much for taking the time out to speak with us today. So on the show this week, as you just touched on there, Irina, we'll be delving into how digital wallets and super apps are transforming the way people interact with money, commerce, and technology in their everyday lives. In particular, we'll discuss how Wallet in Telegram is revolutionizing financial interactions by enabling digital wallet functionality and peer-to-peer transactions directly within the Telegram messaging app. We'll explore how this innovation is driving financial inclusion in emerging markets, the key use cases within the Telegram economy, and the broader trends shaping the adoption of digital wallets worldwide. And we'll also examine how Wallet in Telegram leverages blockchain and the unique opportunities that technology presents there, and how Telegram's open platform model compares to more vertically integrated super app ecosystems. So to start things off then, Irina, as you've mentioned, Telegram has evolved from a messaging app into a broader ecosystem supporting mini apps, commerce, third-party financial services now. How do you see this platform evolution then, and what role does Wallet in Telegram play within that ecosystem?
Sure, of course. You're right. Telegram is, first of all, a messaging platform, and it has about 1 billion monthly active users, so a pretty solid user base. And indeed, it has evolved into something bigger than that. So it is an ecosystem. What's interesting about it is that instead of actually imposing the services developed by Telegram, Telegram opened the platform through bots, mini apps, and APIs, and enabled basically the founders and independent companies to build inside this ecosystem, to create new use cases, to experiment, to explore what's possible. And Wallet is one of those companies. So we are an independent company operating under the long-term partnership, but we obviously rely and, I guess our user base is up to it's pretty much anyone who is using Telegram. So basically, we are not trying, I guess what I want to say here is that Telegram is not trying to become a fintech or a super app. It's actually just helping the innovators, the entrepreneurs to actually, and the builders to establish and explore and experiment. What I love about it is that there is quite a proliferation of experiments and the emergence of the new service types and models. People experiment quite a bit. I'm constantly impressed by the creativity. And I really love that kind of the vision where the messaging and the commerce and the experiments and the communities come together and then they can interact with each other. I feel like that's when a lot of different, very interesting things can happen.
Excellent. I guess looking at Wallet in Telegram then specifically, what are some of the key use cases for you within the Telegram economy?
I'll actually start with the use cases of the Telegram economy, and then there would be a room or some space for the wallet there as well. So depending on how familiar you are, some people probably are a little bit more familiar with Telegram, especially the crypto community. Some people less so. So I'll start with, again, a little bit of the basics. And the first layer, the first really important pillar within Telegram is, I guess, let's put it that way, the information market, the media, the Telegram channels, informational channels. They don't run based on the algorithms. So there is very little sort of infinite loops and infinite feeds of posts that you have on Instagram, for instance, or on YouTube. We don't have the same on Telegram. A user, a subscriber receives what they choose to receive. They are typically not very exposed to the third-party additional things. So if you're a news publisher or a news organization or a financial analyst or, I don't know, like a fintech influencer, for instance, I'm following some of the fintech influencers there as well. You basically receive the news as they come in real time. And there is this natural control that you have over what you read. And that's one. In some countries, in many markets actually, where Telegram is one of the primary channels, this is how people consume news indeed in real time. And this is balanced. There is no, broadcaster or national TV channel that is feeding you any sort of curated content. You actually are exposed to different points of view, and I love that. And people love that as well. So the second one is, obviously, we're talking about news distribution. The second use case within Telegram is the creator economy. So you, Paul, or me, I could actually run my own channel, obviously, and become an influencer. And there are massive communities. Some people have hundreds of thousands of followers, millions of them. You can monetize on that content. You can get paid subscription, gated communities. There's quite a lot of different things that you can do within Telegram. You can also monetize through referrals, affiliate links, if you are endorsing someone, a brand, or another channel, for instance. And there is room and space and place for a blockchain to enable all of those transactions, of course. And again, this is where wallet already starts to come in, because you can pay for those things through a natively integrated wallet. So you don't need to enter your card details. You can authorize transactions and, authorize subscriptions also via blockchain. The native blockchain within Telegram is called TON, the open network. And that chat blockchain basically is the authorization layer that connects everyone through smart contracts and all of those things. So amazing opportunity for us to play a role as the monetization engine for that creator economy. Now, the third type of communities or experiences within Telegram is, let's call them bots. So a bot is like a mini app inside Telegram. I think a point of reference sometimes is like WeChat. I don't think I know much about mini apps in other places, but basically it's like an embedded browser that can be very rich, that lives within a community, a chat, and it could have anything. It could have video content, it could be interactive content. So we have, I'd say, probably 100,000 of bots within Telegram, and they do a lot of different things. You can set up a shop, it could be a merchandise that you would be selling. You could, I'm buying my eSIMs on Telegram from those bots, mini apps. You can buy yourself travel, book a ticket somewhere, book a hotel room. You can play games, of course. A lot of those bots are actually games with some monetization embedded into them. You can trade tokens, so you can exchange any value. You can buy yourself a Telegram or an NFT or some other digital asset. So you could basically, if you're a developer, you could become or build anything within Telegram. We are wallet is one of those kind of apps, mini apps. So we have our own interface, but technically you can pretty much build whatever you want. You could build an Amazon inside Telegram if you wanted to. The friction is minimal. There is no additional download. You basically can register via the same Telegram ID. So the system already knows you. You can connect to payment methods. So that's actually a pretty powerful way. And I think that's where pretty much like everything is indeed intuitive and, it lives within the same environment. So that financial kind of layer is supported by the blockchain, and wallet is playing a role there to support all of those commerce transactions again. So buying and selling goods off marketplaces, buying your NFT, buying some physical objects, buying gift cards, buying in-game currencies or any of those assets. So everything lives within that environment. So I guess hopefully by now you have a little bit more color and depth into some of those use cases. And yeah, I feel like hopefully that explains and gives the good answer to the question.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds great. And I guess, can you walk us through how Wallet in Telegram works then? What differentiates it from traditional fintech apps?
So our strategy from the start was to create that financial ecosystem and functionality, I guess, within Telegram specifically. There is no separate mobile app, so we don't compete with banks. We are indeed, our primary role is to become and provide that utility within Telegram. So, for us, the competition would not be a bank really. I think it would probably be maybe some other apps, although I'd say that by far Wallet in Telegram is the largest one within Telegram and the only native one. Other thing that I love about there is a real-time instant and free transfers between all that 1 billion users that exist within, that use Telegram every day. And that's also one of the examples of the things that banks, can't always give. Within the bank, sometimes you can, but when you're making an international transfer immediately, that's when things are becoming much more complicated. But also, I don't know whether the regulator will not like me to kind of refer to ourselves as a competitor to a bank. It's an alternative. Obviously, we are a fintech and we provide an alternative blockchain-based crypto solution. The word crypto should not be, I come from Web2, so if my background is traditional payments and fintechs. And I've only just started my movement into crypto. And what I know is that the vast majority of the people in the kind of more traditional environments, they don't like the word crypto. There's a bit of stigma that comes with it. But the reality is that the vast majority of people on our platform are using not the crypto in the meme coin sense. A lot of them are buying digital gold, which is a real world asset that is back to, well, real gold that is actually stored somewhere very safely in the Swiss bank vaults and other things. They're also buying USDT stablecoins, which are hopefully now getting more traction and more adoption globally, and hopefully really going to become one of the integral points of elements of the global financial systems. Between USDT and USDC, there is about $250 billion in the global volume these days. It's a massively popular asset. And it works wonders in the emerging markets because that stablecoins is the primary savings mechanism for many people outside of G20. Well, we are in the UK. We're a little bit more lucky. We can rely on the stability of pound, although obviously it depends on sometimes what some of the decisions our politicians are making. There's a little bit of the fluctuation. But if you live in a country such as, well, I know there's a lot of conversation about Venezuela, Turkey, I don't know, like Argentina, the inflation rates there, Turkey is at least 30%. I think 2024 was about 70, if I'm not mistaken. Argentina has also been going through quite a bit of that sort of market currency fluctuation. Any other markets, in pretty much any emerging market, you are exposed, your earnings, your daily, weekly, monthly earnings are at risk of losing its value day after day. So a stable coin as a savings mechanism really is one of the fundamental needs that we are hopefully giving to our users. And then people are not just being able to save, they also are able to send this money globally wherever they are for free and instantly within that like Telegram groups or communities. So if a person lives in the US and they want to send money to Philippines, very welcome to, or you can like the same for, I don't know, any other destination. So I feel like there is a lot of utility, not just the hype, not just the innovation. It's actually the very boring use cases that we're able to provide. And some of them are indeed competing to banks in a way, or basically are very similar to what the banks do. And some others probably are maybe even more advanced.
Excellent. You've touched on emerging markets there. I mean, access to traditional financial infrastructure can be limited in emerging markets. What barriers do users face, and how does Wallet and Telegram help lower these barriers by leveraging Telegram's global reach?
I think, again, emerging markets, I have a lot of empathy and I've spent a lot of time working with or in emerging markets. So what I know is that not every market is the same. And obviously, there's quite a bit of nuance into the local market reality. I'd say that broadly speaking, there are probably three main major barriers. The first one is limited access to banking services. We just spoke about the competition, but sometimes you actually can't access banking services. In many places, in Asia, where I spend a lot of time, in many emerging markets, banks actually serve less than 50% of the population. And it's almost intentional because banking services costs have operational cost. So the banks choose who they work with and they, in a way, discriminate. So, for example, many banks require certain paperwork. And if you have like a day-to-day income, if you serve, I don't know, bananas or mangoes in the street, you can't provide the paperwork required for you to be able to open a debit card. As simple as that. There is like barriers in Philippines, for instance. A lot of the banking sort of or financial services are actually kind of executed by the pawn shops, not the actual banks. It's a massive market. It has like Filipino pawn shops are actually basically replacing in a way an alternative lending channel for the unbanked low to middle sort of income population. Many other markets are the same, but like there is a nuance everywhere. My point here is that in those emerging markets, the first barrier is indeed that limited access. And that's where fintechs or wallets come in and they play a role. In many places, by the way, they get access to the like phone and internet way before they get access to a bank account. And then that phone becomes the entry point. The second issue, which is talked about, the unstable currencies, is about 270% inflation rate in Venezuela last year, for instance. This is just an example. So what do you do about that barrier? you invest or try to hedge against the inflation fluctuation by either buying hard dollars in cash and storing them somewhere under your mattress, or actually trying to find a digital version of the same and investing into digital dollars or digital gold or a version of those. So I guess this is your fundamental protection and the savings. But the third one, and the third structural change, and we also, I'm sure the payments and fintech community knows a lot about it, is the very high cost of the cross-border transactions. So the FX. If you're sending money from US to UK, especially if you're using one of the global platforms, I think you're good. You're in a good place. But if you said, like, if they're one of the legs of those two markets is an emergent, sort of slightly more exotic destination, like, good luck. I think you're facing anything between like 6 and 10% of that sort of rate being eaten by either the commission or the hidden effects or anything that happens between, when you put money in and money out. And if it's your hard-earned dollars and you're making this money here in the UK and trying to send it to perhaps India, hopefully is now a solved market, but if you're trying to send it to Nigeria, I think that's already going to be much more costly. So this is like, those are the key fundamental issues, and how Wallets is able to address them is by providing blockchain-based solutions in an environment, a messaging environment where you are already spending a lot of time. So if you're, my family chat with my family is in Telegram. So I'm using it to connect to my friends, to send them birthday greetings and Telegram gifts on their birthdays, especially if they're far away. I'm also communicating with my family and relatives. So messaging platforms can reach those users and actually help them to address those barriers. So give them an alternative option to save money, to hedge against the inflation, and to also be able to have a money transfer services embedded into Telegram. Why not use it, right? It's a no-brainer. And especially, I know in the UK, on average, people have anything between 6 and 8 different mobile fintech apps, right? You have your Revolut and Monzo and Starling, and then you choose between them. Plus, you also have your Barclays and HSBC, probably something else. One for the points, another one for your mortgage, something else anyway. People don't have that. You pretty much have maybe like one primary option, and I think you don't have, the vast majority of the Telegram population doesn't have that many options to choose from.
I guess building on that, and trust is another critical thing when it comes to any kind of adoption of financial services. How does Wallet in Telegram approach security, compliance, and user protection? And how does operating within Telegram's messaging environment help boost user confidence there as well?
As a custodial solution, we obviously have the ultimate kind of commitment and responsibility to our users, and this is non-negotiable. We have to make sure that we look after their money, but I would break it down into a few things. So first of all, and indeed, safety is the safety of the money. We have to make sure that we safeguard the assets, that we maintain and consistently update our security standards and protocols. And that's a very important part of how we look at the safety. And we work with a lot of the kind of providers, and it's an ongoing exercise. But the second part of the responsibility comes with compliance to regulation. We are not trying to fly under the radar. We comply with the regulatory frameworks in all of the markets where we operate. We apply for licenses. We do a range of very complex and sophisticated checks and real-time transaction monitoring. So as expected by the regulators, in fact, I'd say that is probably more sophisticated than in a lot of the more traditional banks that I'd worked with, let's put it that way. So blockchain real-time transaction monitoring is actually quite has a lot of powerful technology behind it. And I'd say that beyond the technology, there's also quite a bit of operations and operational investment that goes with it. I'd say about 1/4 of our company actually is either compliance or compliance ops. So people doing AML checks and going into transaction investigations and handling the requests and trying basically to ensure that we are giving a positive consumer experience whilst also meeting the requirements of the regulators. And then the final part in that sort of trust building and security is that we also want to make sure that we take on responsibility and provide that sort of consumer duty burden. We take it on proactively. So giving that transparency to the users about the fees and the risks associated with investments, and also giving them tips and like diversification suggestions, really. So kind of really going above and beyond and enabling our users, especially in emerging markets, to make better decisions about the money. So that's one. And then also we have a world-class support team that is very strong and is able to resolve the vast majority of the issues within actually a really quick time, faster than the competitors at least. So, and that's, I think, that a very important pillar of that trust, that there is someone who will be able to address your concerns and hopefully give you a resolution that you're expecting.
Excellent. And you've touched on a few things during the conversation so far, but blockchain infrastructure plays a growing role in digital financial services. How does Wallet and Telegram leverage blockchain technology then? What benefits does that unlock for users?
Oh, wow. Where do I even start? I feel like blockchain should become the kind of the norm now. Hopefully these days, we're seeing a lot more traditional banks and FIs actually absorbing and leveraging. The first benefit and the first component in blockchain is its transparency and the ability to actually track and trace down the transaction, as well as, I guess, the origin of the transaction. And then that helps everyone actually that is leveraging the technology to either confirm its status, to have visibility on where it is and know what's happening at any given time, plus also the supporting structure to control and monitor it a little better. The second benefit of blockchain technology, I guess, it's immediacy. And I would almost real-time nature of it. And I would compare it here with, say, Swift, for instance, that is relying on perhaps slightly more the systems that were developed many years ago, decades ago, probably in the 70s, where things don't happen in real time. And there is no transparency either. So you have to kind of wait for the signals to register for the transaction to actually arrive physically for someone to put it on the ledger. And then you basically don't know. And I've heard so many stories about really huge transactions, sometimes billions of dollars being sent, an M&A deal being sent from one part of the world to another part of the world. And for those 48 hours, people just sweating because they would have no idea where the money is and where it's going to arrive. So none of that is going to happen on blockchain. And then I think the last part of the blockchain technology and the last benefit is its security, really. There are different, obviously, risks associated with scams and potential kind of takeover of the seed phrase and control. But the actual blockchain by itself, you can't hack it, right? So there is an integral part of the technology that protects and secures the assets that live on it. I think that, in a very simple form, these are the three main benefits, but I'm sure, in fact, I think there is a lot more beyond that too.
Excellent. And as mentioned at the opening of the show, we're seeing the rise of super app ecosystems globally. How does Telegram's open platform model, where independent companies build services inside the app, compare to more vertically integrated super app models?
So what does vertically integrated model means? Vertically integrated model means that a company such as Meta, for instance, introduces services and imposes them on or controls how people pay on the platform, how they lend, how the commerce work really, and basically develops those services itself. So as we touched on, Telegram's model is a little bit different than that. So it's an open platform where independent companies can actually create and collaborate, in fact, in some cases. So this open model, the primary aspect of it, the primary benefit is that it enables innovation while maintaining, there are some guardrails, of course. There is kind of rules of engagement and operational sort of standards and regulation. But at the same time, I feel like it's a place where anything is possible within the boundaries. You can experiment. And I think there's a lot of amazing opportunities that we're yet to see. There's a very big, I wish there was like a nice report that I could point you to, but I feel that there is an immense potential in that market. And currently it's a multi-billion-dollar business, which is going to grow even more.
Great. And to sum things up here then, what would you say is driving the broader shift toward embedded finance and in-app financial services, and how does Wallet and Telegram fit into that trend?
I think there is, in the developed markets, I'd say that the emergent trend is in consolidation. We talked about, at least I brought up an example of in the UK, FinTech user on average having multiple apps, and really there's a lot of friction between selecting which one to use. You use this one for that. I feel like there's a really big opportunity in merging those streams together and actually having that embedded flow in a single universe and having multiple things done out of the same place. And then in the emerging markets, that embedded structure, a slightly different reason for people to choose it. They have access to things that they didn't have access before. in a place that feels familiar, that is intuitive, that is their fingertips, that is contextual. So I think that the opportunity of the contextual kind of situational payments within a chat with friends between borders. I think another thing that we talked about a little bit is that it's global. It's not limited by the domestic payment infrastructure. There's no limitation or no border really that's going to stop it. The ability for you to make money out of it, become a creator and actually become hopefully a millionaire by utilizing the power of those communities. And ultimately simplified access to digital assets all within the same chat. I feel like it's a pretty powerful vision when you combine all of those things together. And if there is a platform that's already part of your day-to-day life and you trust that platform, I think that's the destination. That's where we want to be.
Thanks again, Irina, for chatting with us today. To close out the podcast, we have our now infamous FinTech Jail. This is where we ask for an industry term, buzzword, or trend that you've seen or heard enough of, or of course, you can advocate to free one of the previously incarcerated terms. So what would your selection be for this week?
My selection would be the word seamless. And as much as I am not against the meaning of the word, I am just so tired of it. Just the word itself feels empty to me anymore at this stage. I feel like it's very subjective and I think it's overused. So I'd love for the fintech community to replace the word seamless with much more substantive and substantial specific meanings, such as if you talk about seamless payments or a seamless top-up, that what you probably want to say is that, well, it's a top-up in 3 clicks, right? That's your promise. So just make it much more, tangible, really, as opposed to trying to come up with a cliche word that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I'm surprised this hasn't been added to the jail earlier, actually. As like you say, it's pretty much everywhere at the moment. And this is another example of a word I see in probably about 90% of the press releases I receive as well. So there is no argument from me here. I'm more than happy to add seamless to the jail this week. And I imagine this one will be in the jail for quite some time to come now as well. But for now, Irina, thank you so much again for joining us for the podcast today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul.
Well, that's all we have time for this week. Thanks, of course, to Irina for joining me. As for FinTech Futures, you can find us online at fintechfutures.com and be sure to follow us on LinkedIn to keep up with the latest fintech news. If you like this podcast and our other episodes, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcasting service to get notified about future episodes. Thanks as well to Arama for editing this podcast. You can check them out at arama.tv. As always, thank you very much for your support, and we'll see you soon for another episode of What the FinTech. But until then, goodbye.